who are, how do I put this now? There are a lot of us who are business-minded, meaning we really want to do business, but we are not business people. You get what I'm saying? Alright, I tell you that I'm a farmer's daughter. So I'm going to use my father as an example. So if you tell my daddy to plant XYZ, daddy plants it. And he bear till he can't bear no more. But that is why he stop. Yeah man, he will plant that make it come to fruition. But you see the marketing part, he don't have nothing to do with that. He will call it 2 or 3 weeks before he said, Nelson, so and so already all you are going to sell it. He's not interested in the selling part, none part. And people are like that. Very good at producing. You produce the best jams, the best oil, the best products. But you don't have the business savviness that it takes to operate well in the space. So guess what? If it don't come naturally to you, you have to learn it. You have some farmers who they will sell their produce, but you'll never get them going to market. They never market to sell it. Even if people that go them live and people come take it, they're not going to market because it's just not. Whether it make them uncomfortable, whether it's just not their thing. But if you know that is, you have to know who you are, and then adjust accordingly. So you have to learn the business management skills. So coming to sessions like these is what helps you to do what? Learn the business sense, get the business knowledge and understand how to keep books, how to plan your production, how to plan management to ensure that you are able to stay competitive and grow. The next thing is supply chain management. If you do not produce all of your raw materials, where it's coming from? And it's not just your raw materials. For the lovely bottles, I see some pretty glass bottles and them look nice and skinny, and the different variety of packaging material. Where are you sourcing your packaging material from? The other day when Russia and Ukraine did just kick off, the world turned upside down. You couldn't get this, you couldn't get that, you couldn't get this COVID when things not moving, you couldn't get this, you couldn't get that. If another COVID comes around, will you still have your lovely bottles to put your products in? Will you still have your nice, pretty sachets to package your items in? You have to plan for these things. So whether it is that you're going to stockpile somewhere, or you're going to have them on rotation in terms of how you order them, or be able to pivot. So if you can't get this particular bottle, make sure you have a backup bottle or a backup container that you can use in the event. Suppose your supplier goes bankrupt, and they no longer have that packaging material for you anymore. So suppose the company that you buy your equipment from goes out of business, and they're the ones who service and provide the parts, the spare parts for your equipment. What are you going to do? And that's what things collapse. So you have to be planning for these things. So when you're going to buy a blender, when you're going to invest in big pieces of equipment, make sure you don't know once somebody sell it. Sometimes you have proprietary stuff, but do your research. Where are the parts going to, the spare parts going to come from? Who is going to service it? If you're in a position where only one person can service and provide spare parts, I don't say nothing but think. You understand what I'm saying? Or link with a local supplier who can come look on it. Because look here, everything what Jamaica did there, Jamaica, they have some smart people at Jamaica, though the equipment might not have been built here, they can come and look at it and determine how best to service it for you, how best to make the spare parts that you need out of material that we have. So these are things that you have to think about. Business is not a set it and forget it kind of thing. Constantly have to be working at it. And for those of us who are both the agri-processors as well as the primary producers, you have to think about things like climate smart agriculture, land and water management. When drought time comes, and I don't know if 7 years one of those blessed parishes that y'all don't have water problem. You have water problem down here? Yes. Yes? Some places do. So when you have water problem, when does that make use? Because there's no water in the pipe? You have to plan. And the thing is, the same time when you need the water truck to carry the water come, 50 other people call the same water truck operator and you offer him 5,000, somebody offer him 6, 7, 8 because they really want the water. You have to plan for these things. Does that mean that you have to put in your own catchment facility then? So when you stay near a wash where you collect your water and you learn how to treat it and such that when no water left, you have your own water.
Or you have tank. Or you have tank.
Or you have tank. So again, the things that you have to think about: land. Are you going to rent a facility to do your value-added production, or are you going to acquire land and build your own plant? Where are you going to place it? Open up the bush behind that back where transportation is going to kill you, or are you going to put it in a more centralized area where there is easy access to transportation and road networks and those kind of things? Things that you have to think about. Alright, I think I'm going to gloss over these because, as I said, you are more agro-processors than you are primary producers. But again, things to think about. Your primary produce that you use to do your value addition comes from a farmer. So if the farmer is experiencing drought and different kind of things, it's going to eventually affect your business. So have a good relationship with your farmers or your producers, and perhaps you can be able to advise them when the time is right. You know, they don't come how the planting will work out because you have to shore up your market. So look at crop diversification, and in the same way that the farmer looks at crop diversification, perhaps you need to look at product diversification. So if my darling, you're doing juices and certain times of the year, for the most well, the seasonality of our fruits is changing, from mango beer all year round now, and those kind of things. But there are seasons when you cannot get certain things. So how do you stagger your production? How do you plan your production to ensure that whatever fruit is in season, you are still able to make your beautiful juices? So those are some of the things that you have to think about during times when you know that there is less of a particular input that you need to make your value-added product. Do you have another product that you can do? Or do you have a way of storing, whether drying and freezing, or in some instances they dry and they shred and powder it and whatever? Think about how do you store in time of plenty for when there is time of little. Works for the farmers, it works for you as agro-processors too. And we talk about the rainwater situation. So harvest again in time of plenty for when there is time of little. For those of you who are primary producers, think about your soil conservation measures that help to keep water and land in place so that you can continue to produce your primary products that you then turn into your value-added products. Think about planting trees and doing agroforestry, so mixing some fruit trees even around your enterprises, because the fruit trees help to keep the place cool, so you spend less money on light bill. You might not have to put in AC and those kind of things. You can cool your space a lot easier. Or it is that you plant some fruit trees. So you have you provide your own mangoes, you provide your own raspberries, you provide your own things. So you're adding value to the environment by having those trees, but it's also a secondary source of income for you because you have that as a raw material. Almost there. I didn't see any products that have anything to do with animals, but if you're going to go into cheeses and yogurts and all of those lovely things, anybody aspiring to do that? Y'all just sticking with the crops. Yes, Roxanne, I know you have a little goat team that you're working on. Right. So it's the same kind of thing. Think about it. How is it that you're going to ensure that you can get access to goat milk all the time? Whether you're going to work with your farmer or you're raising your own goats and you're doing your milking, what you feed them is important. Just like how when sun hot, we hot, and we feed it and we feel like we have a drop down. When the goats are out, the animals are out in the sun, the same thing applies to them. So what applies to us applies to them too. Like I said, this really does not. This is more of a crop-based farmers. So the last one I want to look at now is labor migration. Hard to find people to work here. Hard to find people to work for you. So there are some things that you can explore. Heart, Trust NSCA, they do a lot of training programs, and in a lot of instances, those same trainings have to go out on something that is called work experience. You see, you can provide your entity as a place for them to come and get some work experience, that's a good way that you can find good workers. Because they would have studied the agro-processing. It's something that they are into. We're hoping that them do it because they love it and not just to get a degree. It's something that they're into. It's something that they're probably passionate about. And coming and working alongside you is an opportunity for you to say, yeah, I can keep this one. And you let them offer at the end of the internship and you get a good worker. You might have to find some persons who will have the groom. Then they will come to you already and as excited about your business as you are. But they're trainable, you can teach them if they're open to it. I know it's hard sometimes, but those are some of the things that you can look at. Or, in the same way that farmers swap labor, if there's a cluster of you as women who are in a space and you're doing agro-processing, today we're going to help Malene. Tomorrow or next week, we give a day to Roxy and keep the thing going. One of the things that I always say to whenever I'm dealing with farmers, agro-processors, whoever, we cannot have a selfish mindset. You could have good like gold. You alone cannot produce all of the coconut oil that Jamaica needs. You could have good like gold. You cannot produce all of the coconut oil. You can produce all of the fruit juices that will be consumed in Jamaica. So it's best if we work together and help each other thrive than work at each other and then the whole of we just stay the road. So, cooperation, collaboration works well. Income diversification. My mother always tell me what? Don't put all of your egg in one basket. So, in as much as you're doing your agro-processing, never say nobody just do one product. If you do honey, you know, you can use the wax, make the hair something. You know, do something else so that if one thing is not doing well, same product, same primary product, same honey or bee-derived product, but multiple things that are coming out of it. And then in that way, even if honey sales dip, you're still making some money out of, you know, the soap or the hair moisturizer things, you know, those kind of things. So there's something else that is helping you to make money. Because when you do one thing and one thing only, if something happens, then everything just done. So always try to diversify your income as much as possible. Just a quick thing here. So studies have shown that families who have discussions together, especially agricultural-based families, there's a greater possibility of your children staying in the field, supporting what it is that you're doing, taking over your business after you when you discuss it together. And us as parents, as I'm a mother, we tend a lot to lament about the not so great things, and we lament about them loudly. This don't work and that don't work, and the lady said should have come take 5 kids and she never come and she whatever, and that is all the children hear. But when we find the supply, the buyer who say, yeah man, give me everything what you have, we don't go home and rejoice about the buyer who said, give me everything what you have. And so all the picture that is painted in our children's mind is what? That in your heart, I'll be a drama, me can't manage, me can't bother, if this moment that I ever go through, me don't want to have nothing to do with it. So in as much as we lament about the not so great things about our profession, we must rejoice about the good things made in here too. Because think about it, you are giving your everything to create this agro-processing enterprise. When you leave this space, who you are left to? Them same one. So if you give everything that you have to make the best juices in the world, and your children have no interest, no whatsoever to do with you and your juices, when you gone left it, it's about just collapse, and your legacy mashed down because they didn't bring them as a part of the journey with you. And we are lamenting the fact that what? The average age of farmers in Jamaica is 50 and going up. The average age of the Jamaican farmer is 50 plus. Yes, so if it is that we are not making agriculture, agro-processing look appealing to the younger generation, what will happen? But agriculture is so much more than going to the bush. There's so more. Me study agriculture, there's so many different avenues through which agriculture can be done. But the bottom line is, talk to your family, bring your children in as a part of what you're doing, so they are willing to take over after you. Because it don't make no sense you have built a business, and you spend your whole life building a business, and then it just mash down when you're gone. Alright, and finally, you are more likely to succeed if you have a plan. Again, our parents used to tell me, if you don't know where you're going, what is it? Any road will take you there. So if you have a clue what you're do, anything you do is what you intend to do. But when you have a plan, you are targeted, you're calculating, you're intentional about what it is that you're doing. And finally, of course, every single farmer from St. Mary and Portland could not be here today. So in as much as, I think Parish Manager said it earlier, everything that you come here and you learn, go back and tell everybody what you know. Can I tell you a little secret? I put in my past teacher hat. The more you talk about the knowledge that you have, is the more you retain it.
Amen.
So the more you share it, is the more it is cemented in your memory. So tell people, talk to them. You know, say, I go up on the road or something and they will say XYZ, XYZ. Share it with other people and you will retain that information. So that is it for us. Thank you so much for having us, and we wish you a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I want to say thank you to Miss English. We need to give Miss English a big round of applause. Earlier Miss English said we're not hustlers, we're what? We're entrepreneurs, we're business owners, right? So after today we won't hear the term, you know, maybe a little hustling and make some coconut oil, right? Because we're no longer hustlers, or we don't have the hustler mentality. We have the mentality of who? Business owners. Alright, so we're going to move on with today's activities, and up next we have a presentation from ICA, the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation and Agriculture. So give them a round of applause as they come.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so my name is Shauna Brandon. I'm from the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture, and I'm joined by my colleague who is interning with ICA, Miss Crystal Thompson. She's standing. She actually designed this beautiful presentation that we're delivering today. I'm happy to be here to meet with the audience, who I'm assuming that several of you are in the process or have various types of businesses, right, that you want you are doing or you're at some process of starting or scaling up or commercializing, right? So we are going to be covering the topic, sourcing funding for your business. We won't be covering every element of that topic, but some aspects of that topic. All right? I don't know, just to get a sense of who is in the audience though, how many persons here are making products? Okay. All right, so most persons here, how many persons here? Some persons I assume might be farming. Other persons are farming. Okay. All right. And so what do most persons want to happen with their particular product, service, business? Just a few people in the audience. You want to expand? Okay. Anyone else? You need funding to set up a facility. Okay. Anybody else wants to? Same thing. Okay. Pardon? You just want to grow. You want to grow. Okay. Very good. Very good. Okay. So we're going to be touching. This is not an expansive coverage of this topic. We could spend an entire day just on this topic. But just to touch on some key points that you need to bear in mind when you are looking at sourcing funding for your business. Okay, so before I start, I will just kind of introduce the organization which I work for. I mentioned it, the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation of Agriculture, for short it's IICA. And so we are a specialized agency of the Inter-American System for Agricultural Development and the promotion of rural well-being. We have an office in Jamaica, which is one of 34 offices across our member states, and with headquarters in Costa Rica. We mainly operate in the Western Hemisphere, which means that our offices are spread throughout the Caribbean, South America, Central America, and North America. So what do we do? Particularly in our Jamaica office, we promote what we like to refer to as climate smart agriculture, making your farming systems more resilient to the vagaries of the environment and climate, weather, for example, extreme weather events, best practices essentially in farming, building agricultural health and food safety capacities. Those of you who are processing with value-added production, you know that food safety is a big issue. When you come to our station across here, we have a few brochures on food safety. We support youth and women in business. So I notice a lot of persons I'm looking at here are, for example, female. And we have, over the years, worked with numerous women's groups to assist them to improve their capacities as it relates to entering markets, staying in markets, improving their ability to produce. We manage various projects in the past, currently and in the past, that are funded by international development partners that support farmers, rural communities, and government agencies. Try to foster the application of science and innovation, because that is where the world is heading. If you're not doing something new, if you're not incorporating some level of innovation, if you're not thinking in a scientific way, you run the risk of being left behind, right? Assisting agribusinesses to transition into new markets, supporting rural community development, and strengthening capacities. What I mentioned here, livestock development, but also in crop production. And so we're going to look at a few opportunities in preparation for this presentation. We had kind of scanned the internet to kind of make a sense of which funding entities are providing support to entrepreneurs, right? Especially small and micro entrepreneurs. There are many, what I would call foundations currently providing different types of grants, but they're not all supporting entrepreneurs, right? So it's good to kind of zone in and say who is providing funding for the type of funding that I'm interested in. There's a digital foundation most of you, some of you may be aware that UNICEF has a foundation and does a lot of work in community development. So they aim to foster a spirit of self-reliance and sustainable projects within Jamaican communities. So for example, some of their programs include the Build Jamaica grants, Mecca Bucket grants, and they support agricultural and social enterprises. So for example, grants can offer up to $500,000 in funding to small projects to assist community-based groups, and the Build Jamaica grants can go up to US $20,000, and they fund projects across the islands. Typically, just to kind of bear in mind that most times these foundations or any type of funding entity, they tend to fund groups, right? So it's very unusual to have grant funding just on an individual by individual basis. So sometimes there's strength in numbers, and you have to look at who is here with you. Who can I collaborate with, for example, if we are looking to organize ourselves to try and access funding. There's a Jamaica National Foundation, their foundation, and the foundation's mandate is to manage and execute philanthropic efforts of the group and contribute to developmental needs of Jamaica. And they provide grant funding that support an array of agricultural projects in agro-processing, for example, livestock, among other areas. The foundation operates a developmental and funding agency, and they support programs across various themes, one of which being financial empowerment and independence for all Jamaicans. And that is where the support to entrepreneurs would likely fall. So they are keen on funding high-impact programs that demonstrate the capacity to be self-sustaining, right? So there are 3 categories of grants that are listed here. A member advisory council grant of the maximum of Jamaican $100,000, a small grants scheme which will fund up to a maximum of Jamaican $500,000. And then there's a grant fund that provides larger grants in excess of $500,000. But you probably have to, and I'm sorry that they're not here because I know they were on the agenda, but that is an entity worth reaching out to, because in a separate and apart from the foundation, Jamaica National has a small business loan facility, which provides loans to small businesses. So they are an entity worth following up with. Stressful? You have been through it?
Yes, high interest rate. High, very much. High interest rate.
High interest rate. Okay. All right. Well, there are pros and cons, right? There are pros and cons, and you have to look at the wider environment. There's no guarantee that you can get a grant, even though I'm showing you some options, right? You're more likely you can possibly get the loan, but it comes with costs, So it's for you and your business to determine what you want to spend your effort trying to go after, even the pros and cons of each. But let me continue. I mentioned some local grant funding opportunities. There are also a myriad of international grant funding opportunities that target particularly female entrepreneurs, right? I'm presenting an example of one here called the Cartiers Women's Initiative. And this is an annual international entrepreneurship program that aims to drive change by empowering women impact entrepreneurs.
What's it?
Pardon?
What's the name of that?
Cartiers, C-A-R-T-I-E-R. And there is a website where, but if you Google it, just Google Cartiers Women's Initiative. I could probably click on the link, it's clickable, just to kind of bring it up quickly. I have to come off my stop showing. I will send, okay, that is probably easier. Because what we will also do, we will share this presentation with Rhonda so that they can disseminate to the participants here. So that means you have all the links that you can access in the presentation, right? Okay, continuing, so it's open to women-run and women-owned businesses from any country or sector, right? That aim to have a strong and sustainable social and or environmental impact. The regional and thematic awards recognize and fund talented impact entrepreneurs from around the world who are leveraging business as a force for good. All right? As I said, this is just one of several. I picked this one because it was obviously open to anyone in the world. You know, some of them we might have to figure out who can get what, right? But there are lists of grant funding opportunities for women entrepreneurs. And maybe I can share that link with Rhonda as well. Okay, there's a Development Bank of Jamaica. This is a local institution. So the Development Bank of Jamaica has grant programs to provide capacity development support to innovation and support for the creation and growth of new firms, innovation and support for the creation and growth of new firms in the sector within the MSME category from startup to 2 years, right? And provides grants of up to 4 million or 70% of the project cost. The grant is channeled through business service intermediaries, so you actually would have to find an entity, a business support organization that can assist a group of enterprises to be able to present the proposal and implement the project, right? DBJ can provide far more information, but just flagging these as potential opportunities. And then the DIGI program, which is financed by the Inter-American Development Bank, provides funding to cover, again, MSME category, micro, small, and medium enterprises, to all levels of development, which include grant programs such as an innovation grant fund, a sidecar fund, and a seed fund. I want to flag one point that came up in the two types of funding provided by the DBJ. There is a lot of focus, if you recall, in both the BIGI and the Ignite, there's a word that crops up on both of them, and it's innovation. And a lot of grant funding is looking at innovation in business, right? So that's another thing that you have to bear in mind. People are looking for something new, looking for doing something different. And how can you, one of the things when you are looking for funding to support your business is that you have to make your business attractive to the funding entities. And you have to understand what they want or what they are looking at, where they want to place their money. And so being able to do something different or innovative is important. Right? Even if you know your own business, and so you have to figure out how can you look at what the trends, right? Looking at these funds that are wanting innovation and see how you can fit some type of innovation element into your business. Okay, so the last funding opportunity that I'm going to cover is the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, as the ministry right here in Jamaica. They, since January, have started an MSME again, micro, small and medium-sized enterprises, business roadshow, which is a national initiative of the ministry designed to empower this sector. The Parish roadshows provide opportunities for networking, exploring financial opportunities, and connecting with key agencies and partners. Critically, they also feature business pitch competitions, where participants can compete for cash grants of up to $400,000 in the case that you fall in the small business category, or $200,000 if you fall in the micro business category, right? I know that they're visiting some parishes already based on our research, but I don't see where they've come to St. Mary as yet, right? Or Portland. So it is worth following up with the ministry to find out when the roadshow is coming to your part of Jamaica. All right?
I don't think they do it from parish to parish.
You don't think they're going from parish? You're familiar with the program? going to all parishes? Oh. So what?
It's Western, and then it's Kingston, and then the new one in St. Anne. So you have to, if you want
So they're not really east?
if you want to participate from the east, then Portland, St. Mary,
Right.
St. Thomas, you'd have to go to Ochi. You'd have to go to St. Anne.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for that information. But do you know when that one is coming up?
I'm not sure, but for me,
You might be able to see that you lost interest.
I think it's rigged. That's how I feel.
You think
Because
it's
rigged.
okay?
Because persons that I've been to one, the person that won did not even pitch.
Oh,
And
okay.
they said that when I asked, they pitched in Montego Bay.
Okay.
But they came to the one in St. Anne, they didn't pitch, but they won.
Understood, understood. Well, I mean, you will have a little bit more intimate experience, but this is an initiative of the government, and so you need to be aware of what is happening in terms of being able to source and access funding for your small business. This is another opportunity.
Thank you, my sister.
Given
Thank
the fact
you.
that I just mentioned a particular business pitching competition, I just wanted to do a few slides on what
I'm
it
here at
takes
the
to make a
seminar,
business pitch.
agricultural
This is one
seminar.
particular opportunity, but there may
They're
be
sharing
others,
information.
right? It's a trend now for people to request
For
that you are able to do
person
a
that do
pitch
business.
for your business, right? And a pitch is a short presentation used to persuade potential investors, partners, and customers to invest in or support a product, service, or business idea. So I'm just going to cover some of the key elements. Has anybody here ever done a business pitch? You have. Okay, a few persons. All right. Go back to the first slide? Sure. Sure. But remember, we're going to make the presentation available through Raven. All right. So some key elements to developing your business pitch. You need to decide the problem your business aims to solve. You should be able to explain your business's effective solution to the problem. Identify your target market and their
Okay,
needs.
thank you. Thank you so
State
much.
what makes your offering valuable to this target market. Explain how your business generates revenue. Demonstrate potential size and opportunity for growth of the market. Because your business is also connected to the market in which you are pursuing. So the potential of that market is also critical. You need to be able to highlight what sets your business apart. This is your competitive advantage. Showcase expertise of yourself and your team, and present realistic financial forecasts. Financial forecasts are always important because at the end of the day, what you're looking for is money, right? Some tips in terms of preparing your business pitch. You should be able to understand the audience that you are pitching to. Tailor your pitch to their interests and their needs. So a pitch to an investor might be slightly different to a pitch to a potential buyer, for example, right? And you need to bear in mind what each target audience wants to hear. You should be confident and passionate. You need to believe in your business idea or your actual business and let it shine through your pitch. Practice your delivery, rehearse it, and ensure that it's smooth and engaging. Be prepared to answer questions. Your pitch is not the end of the story. You must have sufficient knowledge that and you must anticipate the types of questions that may be asked and have those answers ready.
But what happens if the panel is made up of different persons, like an investor, a purchaser?
Well, if you know that's what's going to be likely, then you have to prepare accordingly. Right? You have to prepare for the different target audiences. So you have to cover the gamut of target audiences. Since I saw some persons raise their hands that they have done a pitch, or there may be others who have an interest or have thought about this, I would love to have at least one volunteer that could stand up and in approximately a minute or 2 minutes pitch their business to the entire audience. You're ready? Okay, yeah. I thought I'd have to beg for a person to do it. Okay, I'm going to give you the mic, right? And you are going to introduce yourself. And in around a minute or 2 minutes, you're going to promote your products to this audience.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Asim Gordon, and I am a processor where I produce all natural items because I am sick and tired of going to the supermarket and seeing stuff with all these different chemicals. So for my jams, for instance, there is no artificial technique, no preservative. Only thing in them is lime juice, sugar, water, and whatever fruit I choose. So it's all natural and it's good and healthy. And it's for your children. And it lasts very up to a year and a half without refrigerating. Well, for my juices, I do natural juices. For instance, I love to use things that are very unusual. I just want any juice that everybody has. Alright? My latest on the market is carrot water. Carrot water. Carrot is good for your eyes. And in my carrot water is just water and it's lime juice. Natural, healthy. Now, for vegan persons who don't tolerate meat,
Thank you
right,
for
I have
coming.
something for you. I have my
There is
coconut
some good
vegan brandy. Yes,
information here.
it's made from the coconut husk that everyone always throws. I love to recycle, you know? Persons, when they taste it, they ask if it's fish, but it's not fish, it's all vegan from coconut. I thank you.
Alright.
Very good, very good. Sure, Miss Leslie.
My brand name, I said my name is Asim Gordon, that's my name. And the name of my brand is Asani Foods. All natural. I thank you.
And for you, thank you for participating. I actually forgot the second slide to my tips, and there's a key point in it that I would want to tell. Remind me of your name? Asani, for the pitch and everybody. One of the key things is to ensure that you have a call to action at the end. End the pitch stating what you want the audience to do. So for example, you need to have said, buy my products. Where can you find my products? You understand? You need to tell your audience, if it is you want investors to invest in your, it's an investor pitch, tell them, I want $500,000 to do X, Y, and Z, or if you're giving it to potential buyers, you can find my products at X and Y, da 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 da, please come and purchase. So make sure you tell your audience, you end your pitch by saying what you want them to do. That's very critical. Okay? Other elements, if you, for example, had samples of your products and selling, you could have shown them in terms of using visual aids, just what I have on here, as well as keep it concise and focused, right? Don't get too long, don't overwhelm your audience with too much information. But thank you.
Classic, very
So you
interesting,
get a
very
sense.
much.
I mean, typically the pitch will be a little bit shorter, depending on
Talking
the
about
audience
all
that you
natural
are
stuff.
targeting. But that was a very good example of being
The person
confident
here
and
make
passionate
different type of
about
things
your
too,
products. Okay?
from natural
Okay.
things.
Now, one of the things that I am going to cover quite briefly, because this is also something that you could spend a whole day doing. If you're talking about sourcing funding, you need to be able to articulate your business in some kind of plan, right? Whether it is a loan, even if you're getting grant funding, people want to see the numbers, okay? People want to understand the information about your business, and this is where a business plan is useful, right? It may not have to be an extensive business plan, but at least you must understand or have that information about your business. And so why write a business plan? It provides the business with the means to seek financing. Notice that's the first point, right? It documents the processes and operations of the business. it provides a guide for the company to actualize its goals. So all of you, there's somewhere where you want to take your business. Business plan helps to focus on that path or that direction. And it allows the business to evaluate and monitor its development over time. So if you have a plan, you can always refer to the plan and say, how am I doing with respect to the plan that I had set up? It's also a strategic guide. You have to get a sense where you want to go. How are you going to get there? What are the market issues that you're going to be targeting? What is it going to cost for me to do all of this? And what is the greatest profit opportunity? Sometimes, and you have a range of products, right? But some products are more profitable than others. And you have to know sometimes which one to choose and which one to let go of, right? Because at the end of the day, as much as you're passionate about your product, you also have to be passionate about profit and align those two quite well. And so when you're looking at funding sources in terms of your, how you're going to utilize your business plan, there are various funding sources. You have your own savings. Most of us don't have enough savings. You have friends and family. Maybe you can call and say, boy, brother, help me out, etc. Even your family, they want to see some information about your business. Once people are letting go of their money, they're going to want to ask questions, right? You have banks. We spoke about lending institutions, and you have pros and cons. You have what we call angel investors. This is something that has increased in recent times. There are local angel investment companies in Jamaica. They're looking for opportunities to spend people's money, right? Granted, they want to make sure they can earn profit afterwards, but it exists in Jamaica. One time that was just a thing we used to hear about happening external to Jamaica, but there are angel investment companies in Jamaica. And angel investors and venture capital, I think, are pretty much are quite similar. And then you have the lenders, right? Their expectation, they want to fund a business that has somewhat of a track record. Most importantly, they want to ensure that you can repay the loan, and you have staying power, and you can sometimes require collateral, not all, but some, right? But a lot of these between investors and lending entities, they may request or require a business plan. All right, so the investment expectations, what is your competitive advantage if you're going to invest in your business? Hopefully, you're entering a market that has huge potential. You have a good management team, you have good marketing and sales. You as the business has skin in the game. So even though I'm depending on someone else's money, I am invested in that business, right? And sometimes the investor also has to consider what is their exit strategy, right? They may not want to stay with the business for the entire time. They want to put in money and then pull out at some point in the future. So all of these things you have to bear in mind. All right, so writing the business plan. These are some of the key elements we're going to be touching on. You should have be able to provide an overview of your company, no matter how small it is, right? What's the mission of your company? Where is it located? What are your products, right? What are the capabilities of the company? What are you able to do? What are your objectives? No matter how small you are, I'm sure you can fill in information for some of these categories. What are your products and services? What does she was very able to articulate the benefits of her product, for example, right? And why it is unique, and what is the competitive advantage of the product that she is producing and selling. What type of technologies are we using? How are they applied? Again, I mentioned that the importance of innovation. And your commercialization status. Where are you within the trajectory from idea to startup to full commercialization, right? So, for example, we talk about your competitive advantage. And this looks at what are the features of your product and what are the benefits associated with the features of that product, right? So again, she was able to identify these are the features of my product. It does not have this or that ingredients, and this is the benefit of those types of features, right? So this is an example. Okay, again, you want to look at the competitiveness of your product or services vis-a-vis the competition. So you have to be also very keenly aware of who you are competing against. And you should be able to articulate that, right? And know how your product stands up against its competitors, okay? For various features, packaging, taste, and so forth, right? All right, another element of your business plan is to be able to do a market analysis, and that is the target market that your product is in, right? And who are your primary target markets and who are your secondary target markets, right? So you might have a particular product, for example, she would have mentioned that maybe targets those who are health conscious. They look on labels, they read labels, they don't want to see a whole heap of chemicals in their food. You know, that's your target market. Then there may be secondary markets. That's okay, fine. Maybe that's not a big issue for them, but they have health issues. So they need to start thinking about that. You know, so think about the different segments of the market that you're targeting. What's the size of that market? What are the trends in that market? If you can get any figures in terms of the types of revenues, earnings in that market, and the predicted growth rate. Is this a market that is growing? Is there, increased interest in buying products within this market? Right? So as I mentioned, describing the market, are there any market challenges? Right? Are there any logistics issues? Getting your product to market, for example. What are the various segments? And what is the company's potential within the market? And you may also want to look at what is called a SWOT analysis, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats of that particular market. So within the market, who are your customers? Who are the customers that you're focusing on? And I think being very customer-centric is critical. I think the businesses that will do well are the businesses that are going to just cater to their customers. So you have to understand who their customers, who are your customers, why do they buy, what satisfies them, how are their present needs currently filled, what are the alternatives, what causes them to make a decision to buy, how frequently do they purchase. So you have to almost become intimate with that target market that you are pursuing, because ultimately your ability to understand your buyers connects to your ability to sell to them. Okay? So I really want to emphasize this point on being able to describe and understand that customer that you are going after. Right? Marketing and sales plans. So how are you going to promote your product? Are you going to try and attend trade shows to showcase your product wherever you can? Are you able to do any type of advertising? Is there any way you can utilize the internet? Social media is a big thing. You post it on Instagram, etc. And you can circulate. Public relations, publicity. Can you associate yourself with any events, any activities that will publicize your business, your products? I know, funding is an issue, but, assign some funds to that, to be able to market your product. And then how you determine your prices, what's the basis for your price points. I know typically people look at what else is in the market, look at your cost of production, what are the margins that you can afford to build into your sales. And then your marketing and sales plan. And these elements are important for your business plan because people want to know how are you going to market, how are you going to get your products sold, because that's how you're going to make revenue, right? It's probably more important than how you're going to make the product. They want to know how you're going to sell the product, right? So all of these issues in terms of can you find a sales force? Who are you going to depend on to distribute your product? What are your sales expectations? Are there intermediaries? What is your value chain? What cost or markup will you give to intermediaries, for example? If it's, are there any, depending on the type of product, are there any after-sales services that you would need to provide? Are there any warranties? We spoke again about budget marketing, appliance sales, and what is your plan for growing your essentially your sales capacity, right? Your operations, this is your how you produce your particular product. What are the facilities that you are going to be using? Will you have staff? What type of staff? How many staff? Are you subcontracting any elements? What are your quality control procedures to ensure that your product remains as you have conceived it and you don't lose quality over time, that there's a consistent quality? And then what is your budget for operation? What does it cost you to put your product? What are your operating expenses? Financial projections, this is another key area. Again, you want money, right? So the people that you're presenting the plan to, they need to see how you are going to earn or how you project to earn over a period of time, all right? So financial projections is to project year-on-year growth for income and make sure it is realistic, that it's not overstating or understating. And what is the ability of the company to scale or expand or grow its operations over time? And what are some of the assumptions that you are using to determine whether or not you can grow and at what level? Okay? This requires some, thinking through, having an understanding of the market to be able to say, okay, based on the trends, what is happening, the supermarkets that I think I can reach, I can grow my sales by X%. That type of thing. It's not just a pie in the sky. There has to be some rationale as to why you think you can grow your market. Maybe you currently have your product in 2 stores, but you think based on your scan of the landscape, you can expand to maybe another 10 stores in the space of a year. That type of thinking through is what they would want to hear, okay, or want to see in a plan. Okay, so this is an example of a financial projection. It shows 5 years, revenue starting at say 5, this is a very ambitious one. Revenue starting at 500 and going to 50,000 in 5 years. But this is just an example. COGS means cost of goods sold. So your revenue less your cost, and that is your gross profit, right? And cost of goods. And then you will have other expenses. That's not necessarily your cost of goods sold, which then after taking that out, you get your net income. But and this is simple. This is simple. You can start to just put together some figures based on what you know it costs you to produce. If you sell, what you earn. If you were to expand your sales, you're selling in 2 stores now, you might expand to selling in 5 stores, what that revenue increase would look like, right? Just a simple projection. This is a more detailed cash flow projection. It goes into all the ways that you will be using cash, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. But just to let you know that in addition to your income or revenue or profit projection, people who want a business plan typically also want to see a cash flow projection. Because sometimes even if you are earning profit, you can have negative cash situations, right? And that is why cash flow is so important. Because cash and profit and revenue are 2 separate things. But that's a accounting class. Dr. Knight? Alright, fine. Okay, but just to let you know that cash flow is also important. How you manage cash in your business is important. Okay, so funding. Also, you want to describe what funding the business has received to date, or how you are proposing for the business to be financed. How much money do you need? right? A lot of people say, boy, I need money. But do you know exactly how much you need? What you specifically you need? X for this, Y for this, Z for this. You have to work that out as well, right? Not just much as I need something.
Thanks for coming.
Specifically what and how much, right? How will the funds be used? And this is a good point. What are the key value building milestones to be achieved with this fund? Okay, so
Thank you.
say an investor puts some money in, okay? What should be the result of this investment? What should be the advancement that you gain from having received this investment, right? For example, does it mean that you have been able to improve your production capacity so that whereas before you could only make 5 items in a day, now you're making 30 items in a day, right? So you need to be able to link what the investment will be put in for and what you will get out of it. Okay, what is the benefit you will get out of it. And it has to be very clear too, because sometimes you can get money and it's not valued for money, right? If you haven't clearly planned out how it will be utilized and how it will be of benefit. Okay? And then what are your future funding needs? Okay, so you get money to reach to step A. You might work at step A for a bit, and then you realize, okay, fine, 2 years down the line, you need to step B, and that's a separate expansion plan. Okay, so that's another issue you want to. You're not necessarily going to get all the money one time, so you need to understand the phases in which you may want your investment. And then, if there are exit strategies for the investor, what would that look like? Right? Maybe you can say to them, based on my plan, in 5 years' time, I can buy you. Right? I can pay back your investment. Okay? And what is the ROI? Anybody knows what ROI is?
Return on investment.
Return on investment. What is the return on investment for those who may invest in your business? What would they get in return? Okay? Alright, so as a summary, this is just to kind of summarize what I have gone through. What do you want your target audience to remember about your company? Right? That is unique and a significant opportunity. Unique product or service, you have a competitive advantage. You need to be able to describe your strengths. What's your market approach? Who are your customers? How you are going to reach them? Do you have any intellectual property in your business? Because that is valuable, right? And people notice that. What's your management team? And there may be other elements you would want to convey about your business. I'm showing this diagram. This is actually called a business model canvas. This is also something that has, become more trending in recent times. It is a much shorter way of presenting your business plan information or key elements of your business plan. So it speaks to who are your key partners to be able to execute your business and deliver your products. What are the key activities that are involved in producing and selling? What are the key resources that you will utilize to be able to do this? What is your value proposition? And your value proposition is essentially your competitive advantage. What makes your product, service, business saleable? Okay, what's the value that you are offering to your market? That's your value proposition. What are your customer relationships? How are you going to reach the market, right? And what are your channels? What are your distribution channels? How are you getting your product to market, for example? And who are your customer segments? That's your target market. And then the bottom part is the financials.
Thank you, Dr. Thank you.
What it costs.
Thank you so much.
And what you're going to earn.
I appreciate
Okay?
your time.
So you see in one neat picture, you have almost covered most of the elements of your business plan, right? In summary. So if this is particularly good for like if you need to do a pitch. If you need to put the information together for a very short delivery of what you want to say about your business. All right, I'm going to hand over to my colleague. She has worked, while we're not going into preparing for funding proposals, because we know that there's a presentation coming right after us that will do that. She has worked with a funding entity and can give us a little bit of information as to what they are looking for.
Okay, I'm going to be very brief because I know time is of the essence. So good morning again, everyone. As Ms. Brandon, afternoon actually. As Ms. Brandon has stated, I do have a bit of experience from interning at a funding organization here in Jamaica, and as such, I had the opportunity to observe firsthand how proposals are essentially evaluated, how they are evaluated. And with the knowledge that I have gained, I am pleased to share and extend that information with you. So the first point, or the first element, I believe they place a lot of emphasis on is making sure that your project proposal aligns with your thematic focus areas, or essentially what the company is trying to achieve. A lot of persons make that simple mistake. When you are crafting your proposal, you have to make sure it aligns with what the company wants to fund. So you have to clearly tailor your project to fit under that. And so I recommend researching about these focus areas so you can tailor your projects towards that. And next key element is actually strong community or stakeholder support, funding bodies. I believe a good proposal, I should say, demonstrates meaningful stakeholder investment and support. So attaching this to your proposal definitely strengthens it through letters of support or memorandum of understanding. Sustainability plan, it may seem here and there, but definitely a sustainability plan is a plus. Funding entities tend to look at if your project or what you're seeking funding for, can it maintain itself post-grant period? Can what you're seeking funding for continue making impact post-grant period? Another element actually is a detailed budget. This is a very, very big and important aspect. You cannot be vague when you're doing your budget. And as such, I recommend a line item budget where you are breaking down essentially what you want funding for. So, for example, don't just say, oh, training, $200,000. You break it down, facilitator fee, training material, venue rental, refreshments, transportation. Break it down so they see how you're allocating the funds and make sure it is justifiable. When they reach out to you, they're going to ask, why are you allocating, for example, $30,000 towards training material? You have to justify what you're allocating it to. So this can be annotated in your proposal. Quotations are also important to attach in the budget as well, preferably about 2 or 3 or more. And this is essentially important so your project doesn't lose credibility. You can have a strong proposal, but the budget can't be done for any co-funding or in-kind, if your organization is contributing funds or receiving any support from partners, be sure to include that as well. Lastly, track record. From my experience, strong proposals included the applicant's background and qualifications, past successful projects and existing partnerships that could support implementation. But if you're a new organization or a new business or you're just starting out, it helps to highlight collaborations or to show how your team or how you bring the skills needed for execution. And that is basically it for our presentation. Thank you guys so much for listening.
Alright, we want to thank Ms. Brandon and her team for her presentation on how we can get funding for our business to expand, to grow, or to just bring into the dreams and aspirations that we have for our dreams. Our next presenter will be the Tax Administration of Jamaica. I know persons are very not so welcoming of the tax administration because they're going to collect your money. But the team here is here to educate us and let us know what they're about and inform us that that's not all they do and they serve a greater purpose. Alright, so the next team will be from the Tax Administration Jamaica. You can give them a round of applause.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
And how are we doing? Do you have some money to give me today? No. No money at all. All right, I'm not here to collect today. Actually, what I'm here to do is just to share some information with you, and I'm talking about vital information that will help you in your business in regards to what your obligations are. When you actually know your obligations, then you are in a more informed position to make your decisions, right? And we say knowledge is power.
Yes.
And we embrace knowledge.
Yes.
Great. All right, so today, this presentation is a bit long, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually just move the slides to what is more important to you today. All right, so when we look at taxation and entrepreneurs, we're looking at farmers, sole proprietors, business owners, whether you own a company, whether you're a sole trader. Once you're in business, once you're earning an income, you need to know what your obligations are. If you're earning an income as an employee, also you need to know if your taxes and deductions are calculated correctly, right? Okay, good. All right. So as I said, I will be sharing some information with you, whether you're operating or you're starting a business. The first step for you would have been to register with the Companies Office of Jamaica, and if my colleague has not come to speak to you on that, I know she will actually take you through your registration. So registration is the first step, right? When you register at the Companies Office of Jamaica, if you're registering an entity, whether it's a limited liability company or whether it's a partnership, it will be given its own TRN, and it normally begins with 0. Once you're sole proprietorship, then your TRN as an individual will be upgraded with a branch 001, 002 at the end. It depends on how many branches you are registering. What it allows you to do, your TRN allows you to conduct businesses with government organizations and other organizations as well, because you know that is our unique number, and it is an identification number as well. For the registrational part and the NHD, for self-employed persons, once you register with the Companies Office of Jamaica, then you'll be registered to make your contribution to HART and NI, contribution to NHD and NIS, and for employers, you will be registering to also make contributions to HART, which is 3% of the gross taxable payroll. Once you have a payroll, you're paying your employees. If the payroll exceeds $14,444 per month, then all employees, except for educational institutions, they are empowered to collect and pay over HART, right? Tax compliance. So one of our main focus this morning is to ensure that you are tax compliant. And what is tax compliance? So tax compliance is the degree to which a taxpayer complies with the Jamaican tax law. And I'm going to say this to you. So in a nutshell, being compliant is to ensure that you file and pay your taxes on time. So that's the foundation of being compliant. The tax compliance certificate, you may actually need it to do your business at the customs if you need to make any clearance. You're importing, you need your tax compliance. If you're bidding for contracts with the NCC, which is the National Contracts Commission, you need your tax compliance certificate to obtain loans, to open your business accounts, at the financial institution. You also need your tax compliance certificate. For trade license. So trade license is applicable to persons who are actually engaged in a trade or business. So whether you're in retailing or wholesaling, then those are the main categories. We have other categories that if you're doing like newspaper and so forth. So you're into retailing and wholesaling, then you'll be required to register for trade license. It becomes easier now though, because once you have your online account with us at TAG, you can apply for a trade license online. So you don't really have to go into the office. But if you want to go into the office, that option is still available.
Does it mean that because that this is registered automatically your self-paying taxes, your tax threshold, income threshold will start with tax?
Alright, yes. So let me explain to you. Alright, it is further in it goes further in my I have it further where I'm gonna explain to you. Alright? Okay. Alright. So when we look at entrepreneurs, for business persons, there are 4 key things that you should know. You should know about business taxes and fees. You should know about tax compliance. Record keeping, which is a sore point because everybody starts a hustle, right? And we don't keep records. We don't know if the business is viable. We're not sure if it is profitable. We're not sure if we're taking our savings to actually maintain the business. So, and that is one of the reasons why record keeping is very important. Also, in everything that you do, you have rights and obligations, right? So those are the 4 key points that we look at when persons are conducting a business. These are the aspects that you should really pay attention to. In Jamaica, it makes it a little bit easier for us because of our tax system. The tax system that we operate is called a self-assessed tax system. What does this mean? It means that you are in control of your taxes. The only thing is that you're going to ensure that you abide by the due dates, when you file by the dates recorded, right? The dates are set by Tax Administration Jamaica to say file your taxes by March 15 or by March 31st, depending on the type of tax return, right? But for income tax purposes, all income tax returns are due on or before March 15, right? So, with the system that we operate, it gives you that responsibility in terms of calculating, putting your stuff together, declaring what your income is, declaring what expenses, and these expenses are wholly, these expenses that you will declare on your tax return wholly and exclusively to the business, no personal expense, right? So don't think about that expense that I have to pay rent for myself for where I live, or if I go to the supermarket, so those expenses cannot be included. But if I have, say I need to buy some seedlings to plant, whatever venture I'm taking on, and I buy some seedlings, I need to record that. Fertilizers, I need to record that.
I was trying on small businesses, sole traders, home business, separate that type of expense. Suppose the business operates
From home. Yes. All right. So when your business operates from home, there are certain things that we ask that you apportion. When you're talking about your utilities, you know that you actually say before you start your business, you normally pay 10,000 for your light bill each month. Based on what you're doing, you have to actually be using light, right? So you recognize that ever since the business I'm paying 15, 16, 17. So there's a difference. So we just ask you to be fair. So yes, we ask you to be fair with TAG, right? So if you know that for your personal, even though you may actually be looking at inflation and how we increase, or you are increased, or electricity bill and so forth. But then we're gonna really take a realistic look at it to say, well, it's $5,000 really extra or 7,000 extra I spend. And then you're going to calculate that 7,000 extra for the entire year. And that's what you're going to claim. And it depends on how, say you're into baking and you really use a lot of electricity. Then we can say, all right, how often do you bake? If you bake 5 times in the week and your light bill is 100,000 for the year, you might get a 50%. You claim 50 on it because it's based on the usage. And that we're asking you not, why we asking this just to be fair, because we're all living in a world. TJ is not, you're not separate enough. We don't pass you on the road and say, oh, it's TJ, they don't live in the real world. We live in the real world. Yes, so when we ask you to be fair, these are some of the things that we ask you to be, to apportion, right? Your water, your utility water. Also, but if you pay mortgage, you cannot claim that a part of that. But if you pay rent, and you have, say you have a room within your space where you do your business, then we show you how to calculate. Because if we have 5 rooms in the building, then we ask you to put that 1 room over the 5 times the amount that you pay for rent, and that's how you end up at, yes. So we are not unfair, right? Okay, good.
So what about the increase in the electricity bill?
Yes, and I was saying that to you too. Remember, you're going to look at the increase. If we have an increase in regards to, because we might have increase in regards to time. Because in the summers, we know that the electricity go up. But it depends on what you use for your business. And that, again, we have persons even working from home with their laptops, and they have to work online. We know that you need internet. So if you use the internet, you can apportion your internet bill as well. So you can apportion those. Alright? So we continue with our tax system in regards to filing returns where individuals fail to file their return. Then the Commissioner General is empowered to raise estimated assessments. And for persons who are actually in business and you start filing your returns, if you have been registered for GCT, you would have recognized a pattern in the GCT. If you fail to file your GCT return over a 60-day period, then an estimated assessment will be raised. Not that you cannot object and file the correct return, but it is what it is, right? The Commissioner General is empowered. We look at the different tax types. We look at income tax, which is categorized into personal income tax, corporate income tax, and PAYE, which is pay as you earn. So PAYE, for persons who are employed, that's the income tax that's deducted from your salary. Corporate income tax for limited liabilities. Once you register limited liability and you pay income tax from that, it is called corporate income tax. So personal income tax now for sole proprietor. Sole traders, when you pay income tax at the end of your return, that's a personal income tax. Education tax is another tax that we collect. Property taxes, guest accommodation room tax or GART, and that tax is levied on accommodation. So this is mainly paid by the hoteliers, right? General consumption tax, GCT, it is down to our consumer level, so all of us pay that. We cannot escape it, right? Cannot escape it at all. And you know our standard rate is 15%. Special consumption tax, SCT, paid on petrol and tobacco, spirits. So that is what this tax we collect special consumption tax from those people. And asset tax is only calculated and from regulated entities now. So it has been repealed from unregulated entities and now only collected by the regulated entities, which is OUR, BOJ, FSC. Those companies have to have a regulatory body for other agencies, right? What is income tax though? So income tax, so that's the tax on all sources of income. Whether you earn it through business or employment, rental or investments. Once the deduction is made, because sometimes the tax is withheld at source, right? And it is income tax. Income tax is paid by residents and non-residents. And residents, all of us living in Jamaica, we have to ensure that we file and pay our taxes, and it is due on worldwide income. So we know that we actually might be earning, and we can put some money in offshore banks to get some money, and we don't it. Right, because we put it in a country that is a tax-free country. But then when we get the return on it, we are to declare it in Jamaica and pay the taxes on it. And if you own several properties in Dubai, Miami, anywhere else, and you rent out those properties, and you're collecting rent from them, you ought to file your return and declare those amounts, right? For non-residents, so we have non-residents visiting our country. They actually probably come here for work. Once they come here and work, the income that they receive here is to be taxed once they're here for more than 3 months. Alright, so you don't want anybody to say, person's coming in my country, come work on them, now pay the taxes, right? Okay, everybody needs to contribute because Jamaica is a tax country. That is how we maintain our country, by collecting taxes. Income tax has no age limit.
Really?
No age limit at all. Alright, no age limit, but what do we have? Alright, so what we have the income tax threshold. That is different from, you know, you probably might say, THA say I must file return, but I never get back nothing. But then I have a sister in the US and she always file her tax return and she get back return, right? It is different. In Jamaica, we have a tax-free portion which is called the income tax threshold. So for last year, 2024, we were operating at $1.6,050,090, right? So if you, what does this mean? Is that if you earn below this amount, you'll pay other contributions, like NIS, NHD, and education tax, but you will not pay income tax. So that is what it means. For persons who are over the age of 65, because as the mommy said, Verna said there's no age limit. So persons that are over the age of 65, when you file your return, you get an additional exemption of $207,530. So if we really add that to the 1.6, we're at what? 1.87, something like that, don't it?
And that is after you take away expenditure from you.
Yes, because the threshold is taken from your statutory income, meaning when you take all expenses and allowable expenses from the gross, then the income tax threshold adds in. So when you take that from it, if you have nothing left, then you don't pay the income tax.
If you have small amount,
if it's a small amount, then the small, if you see your $5, you see the 25% of the $5, which is common sense. Alright. Yes, and then for pensioners, if you are in receipt of pension, you get an additional exemption of $207,530. When we say registration for this tax type is implicit, it means that you have to file your return in order to get these exemptions. Unless you are a pensioner and you come into TAJ to request an exemption based on your age and your income to take to your financial institution. All right? All right, so in 2025, we have moved to the income tax threshold, and that was before the announcement, right, from the Minister of Finance. So from January, we were looking at $1.788. Now it has moved to 1.799 and some change, that's something. All right, almost 1.9. But that would have been effective from April 1st. So this figure that I have here would be effective up to March 31st, 2025. So we're gonna have another average for this year again, in terms of the income tax threshold. But based on what I have here, we were operating at $1.788. So if we look at weekly, $32,694, fortnightly, $65,388, and monthly, $141,674. This means that if you are earning above these, based on the mode how you get your salary, your frequency, then that's how you pay. If you earn below, then you don't pay any income tax. So there may be cases where you may have contracts and you see persons withhold a part of the money and you're wondering, but I get less than this, but they're withholding. It would mean that you're on contract and they are empowered by the Income Tax Act that once they are paying you an amount for a contract, they can withhold the 25%. Or if it is for special services, on special services, they withhold 3%. But you file your income tax return to declare what has been withheld. And sometimes it results in you getting a refund of that income tax, all right? We look at our taxpayers in terms of companies, individuals, employees, and pensioners. They file they pay income tax on the profit, and for employees, it's straight the PAYE, pay as you earn, and that would be from the statutory income. Okay, and rates, we look at the rates. So for companies, we're unregulated company. So once you're not regulated, it is similar to income tax for individuals. So if the tax on your chargeable income, and this is for limited liability companies. So if you register a company and you're filing your return, when you reach a section for your chargeable income, when you find 25% of that, if it is 375, that's 375,000 or less, then you pay absolutely nothing, because it's an incentive for small and medium entities.
So
If
you're registered as a sole trader,
if you register as a sole trader, you get the income tax threshold, which would have been the 1.7. That's the income tax threshold. But for limited liability companies, you get what is called corporate tax credit. So even if you earn above that 300, if you actually, your taxes on your chargeable income is more than the 375,000, then you just pay the difference. So you would only pay the difference. So it's an incentive for small and medium entities. I know I don't have a lot of time, but what I will just remind you, I'm just going to leave these rates with you, and I want to just show you what the rates are. So for employees, because some persons are employed, right, while you're still conducting your own business. So for the rates that I have here, just take a quick look at the board to see how the salary is calculated. So the first column would have been the deductions. The second column is the employee contribution. That is what is deducted from your salary. The third column for the employee's contribution, that is what the employee adds to what is taken from your salary and is paid over to us at THA. And the basis of the calculation is the last column that shows you how we do the calculation. But I just want to show you how I'm just going to skip this part because I don't have a lot of time. Oh, you want it? Okay. The other one? This one? Okay.
Will you be able to share the presentation?
Well, I'm not privy to share the presentation, but if you send a request to us, then we'll be able to send it to me on the request that I can do. Alright? Can move on now? Okay. Alright, so what I had an example of someone who actually earns 180,000 for salary, and their pension contribution be 10,000 for the income tax threshold is shown, and then I show you how the salary is calculated. So this is how the salary is calculated. So if you want to take a photo, just to see how your salary is calculated. Alright? And then I need to move on to this now. So for self-employed person, you pay your full 6%. That's the difference. Your NHT, you pay 3% for NHT contribution. Education tax remains at 2.25%, and the income tax is 25% of your statutory income. And that is when you take off your expense from your gross income. And if you have like capital allowance or what is called depreciation, that is another loss as well. Then you take off the income tax threshold, and what is left, you times that by 25%. Once it is under 6 million. And so for persons who are employed as well, and if you earn over 6 million for your salary, then you pay 30%. in excess of 6 million. So you earn 7 million, then you know 1 million is going to be taxed at 30%, and then the other at 25%.
Does seniors pay NIS?
No, seniors, all right, so for seniors, when you reach age 65, if you're employed, then that's the last that you do your contribution to NIS. But if you're self-employed, it goes up to age 70. If you're self-employed and you file your return, it's going to be up to age 70 when you're self-employed. Right, so you're no longer paying that. All right, I don't have much time, so I won't be able to go through the GCT registration, but let me just hit, I'm just going to go through my final with you now. Your GCT registration are only for persons who are actually in a taxable activity, and you must be earning annual income of 10 million and more in order to be registered for GCT. So you do not register for GCT if you're earning under 10 million, unless you are in used car dealership. Then if you're in used car dealership, when you register, then we ask that you register for GCT, because we know, and you need to get your benefits, because you'll be paying GCT at customs, which is an advanced GCT, and it is going to be separate from the rate that you sell your customers, right? So you should actually register for that. But separate and apart, you do not register for GCT. What I am going to remind you in my little summary, who can tell what are the 4 most important things as an entrepreneur, when you're in business? Come on, I want to hear. Nobody? Somebody tell me one over here, so. Nobody knows? Come again. Tax compliance? Yes, that's one. I didn't hear you. No, that is for the other planning. Alright? So we have tax compliance, business taxes and fees, right? Which was the sore point that everybody don't keep in Jamaica? Record keeping. And in everything that you're doing, you are to ensure that, right? And your rights and your obligations. Alright, so we just ask you to keep us informed at TAJ if you do any adjustment to your business. You update at company's office, then you come on over to TAJ to do your final updates. Ensure that you're honest with TAJ, and ensure that you are heard and you're assisted. You can visit our page at www.jamaicatax.gov.jm. We have a wealth of information there, and I'm wishing for each and every one of you to be successful in your endeavors.
Thank you.
Alright, we want to thank the tax administration Jamaica for their presentation. See, it wasn't too bad, right? No. Alright, so now we have come to the closing of the well, it's not morning anymore, but this afternoon, so we're going to break now for lunch.
Hi, Gizzy.
Time is
Hi, Gizzy. Thank you for
1:25.
coming.
So we're going to break for lunch. While we're eating, we're going to ask you to explore the different booths, right? And network, right? I'm giving you the chance so that you can meet 2 new people during lunch, learn what they do or what they do, so that we can have a networking session going on during our lunch break, alright? So we're going to pray to bless our food, and then we will go into the lunch session and we resume at 2:05 sharp, alright? So I'm going to distance so we can bless the food that we're about to have. Alright, can we bow your heads? I want to thank you, Lord, for this meal, maybe nourishment to our body. This another mercy we ask in your name. Amen. Alright, so the person, you don't have to move from your station, from your chairs. The food will be given to you. Okay. The first section that will be the person who signed up with lunch register this morning, please stick to what we said. So persons who ordered vegan or vegetarian meals, could you raise your hands, please? So the person will come to you with those items. So please keep your hands up until you get those meals, and then we'll move on after. Alright?
So these are some of the natural products that they have here. This is like carrot juice, beetroot, the basil sop, and this is banana chips. These are fennel, parsley, purple parsley, deli, rosemary, all the different types of herbs that we have here. These are some soups. So this is herbal tea blend. So different types of tea blend. Alright, Johnny, bye. See you later. So these are some herbal blends. These are natural baby oils and baby soap. Mango passion body butter, sweet black soap up here, this side, sweet aloe vera bar,
These are from Malay.
chicken for me.
Everyone for baked chicken, just keep your hands up.
These are all your products? These are all your products?
Just these and this one. These are my
Who else for baked?
Their wine,
Everyone for fried chicken,
coconut oil, onion. What's it called for the mango passion butter? That is butter.
I rather own them here.
Oh, rather. Okay. Okay. I'm working Mariam Studio. Thank you, Classic. Thank you. I'm trying some natural stuff. We have vinegar and ganja wine. Yeah, some all natural. Oh, yeah.
So cute. Oh, you can look at it packaging. Accelerate packaging. Awesome. I'm intrigued. Awesome job.
Charlotte classes, candles, coconut seed, cider vinegar, we have honey, we have different types of soups, just similar to onion way, I think so. You can ask the lady. The lady in the black. Yeah, ask her. Make some coconut shell. Unique. Can give me some coconut shell. Let's make the easy egg and beautiful the tree of life. Contact us at. Here's the contact number. Here is the contact number. This is on the outside. So I'm at Rada office in St. Mary. So it's my neighboring parish. So we are in St. Mary at the Rada office. Where we're having a function, a seminar on business, different aspects of business. So there's a lot to be learned here. Yeah. Thank you guys for staying with me. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for. I'm going to eat my lunch now, so I'll be ending the live. But if I can come on at the next session, I will do so. Okay, guys. They are so nice. Okay, thank you guys. I'm gonna end the live now. Thank you. Thank you, Classic, for staying with me. Thank you, thank you. I'll be ending the live now. If I can go on the second session, I will do so. Okay, thank you guys. Thank you, Classic. Bye.